Hi, welcome to English 1121. It's spring 2025, unbelievably enough. I'm Jacqueline Blaine. I'm your instructor, and I wanted to just say hello and do a couple things. Tell you a little bit about the class, a little bit about me, a little bit about how our Brightspace site works. And I can't ignore this. This is my one-room apartment. That's my dog, Ruby, who she may bark periodically because I live in an apartment building. And then my cat is around someplace. He hates Zoom, so he may show up and just get his face in the camera. Um, and I've been teaching asynchronously for off and on for quite a long time. Last term with Brightspace was really very good, and we did a lot of fun things. I have a bunch of tools that my students have liked and used for even before we went fully online with COVID, and then now that I'm mostly teaching asynchronous like this, people get to know each other oddly, in some ways better than even face to face. So I'm always looking forward to teaching asynchronous because I get to know people pretty well too. Um, so don't worry about my animals. Don't worry about your backgrounds if you ever want to zoom in to have a Zoom session with me, which I have hours set up, but you can talk to me anytime. Just let me know what you want to do and we'll do it. Um, Okay, so I wanted to start at this first little video to sort of introduce you to 1121. The 1101 is supposed to be sort of personal, figuring out your own process, practicing writing, learning about research, figuring out the things that you do well and don't do well. It's very sort of an inward course, in terms of you as a writer. Um, and I have to say this, I've been a writer, a working writer my entire life, whether it was doing medical writing or technical writing. I spent 12 years as a writer producer doing network television dramas. And I teach TV writing at a graduate film school here in Brooklyn, as well as teaching at City Tech. So there's nothing about writing that has ever scared you, or thought you ever feel like you made a mistake doing that I haven't felt or done myself. So we're kind of all in this together, and I think it's important because writing is communicating. It's how we talk to each other. Now, the thing about 1101 is it's mostly about you communicating, mostly with your instructor. There may be some peer review and stuff like that, but most people run peer review a little differently than I do. 1121 is taking those tools and the self-awareness and writing for audiences, understanding that we don't, you know, you don't spend your life writing for instructors. It just feels like it sometimes. But we write for bosses, we write for friends, we write for colleagues, we communicate, via text, videos. There's a whole variety of ways that we communicate. They're all what we call texts, in the world that I come from. They're all a text. Even if it's a text, or even if it's a video, we call it a text. So when I talk about text, I'm talking about anything written, visual, podcasts. Those are a text. It's something that we can look at, if we can create. It's a specific sort of entity in and of itself. So 1121 is all about creating those texts for the world that we live in, for these other people that we deal with. Um, and getting sort of a handle on some of the tools and mostly audience awareness. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this class, is that understanding how important analyzing your audience is before you send stuff out. Now, that may be analyzing, what you want, not only what you want to communicate, but how. Whether you are texting a friend, you're emailing an instructor, you're writing a lab report for an instructor, that's a specific kind of communication tool. But that's really the first and most important thing, is figuring out who the audience is. So we're gonna play with that a good bit. Um, so um, I have a whole bunch of tools. I want to walk you through Brightspace, and I'm going to make another video to do that because it's going to take me a little while, and I don't want to jam up the announcement section too much. The one thing I do want to let you know is that when you log into Brightspace, I use the announcements on the homepage, the course home, all the time. I'm always putting stuff up there. Every week will be, a video and or text message from me about what's coming up this week, and maybe announcements about things in the college or things to be aware of. But most of my communication with my students is through Slack. And I'll talk about that in the next video. My students, I started using this years ago, and my students love it because I tend to respond really quickly. And most instructors, including me, um, don't respond to our emails quite as quickly. But my notifications are on for Slack, so you want to send me a message, I'll answer you back as quick as I can. If I don't, it's either because I'm out in the park with the dog, or I'm in a meeting or something, or I'm teaching at the graduate school on Fridays, when nobody can get hold of me until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, so I'm gonna tell you about all of that stuff in the next video. But I did want to say welcome. Jump in, have a good time. If you've never taken an asynchronous class before, takes a little bit of getting used to, but as my async students almost always tell me, um, particularly if you're kind of shy like I was when I was an undergraduate, I didn't say a word. They like being able to communicate online using the tools that I have got set up, and to get to know each other even a little bit better because you're not forced to deal with the face-to-face stuff. So have fun, jump in, have fun. I will post this video and then I will do the walkthrough, and I will see you back here in a minute.